Governor Thompson.
Mr. Secretary, let me see if I could get this straight. We've been talking for the last half hour on the issue of response to the USS Cole. Mm-hmm. If I understand the testimony of a lot of people, the Clinton administration didn't believe it had proof sufficient of al-Qaeda's responsibility before they left office, and perhaps the Bush administration felt it wasn't on their watch and they had other fish to fry. And passing that, you seem to suggest in your answer to an earlier question that the only option for a military reprisal for the bombing of the Cole was an invasion of Afghanistan. And I think most people would agree, and certainly prior testimony has cited that that was just not an appropriate response. We had no place to forward base from. We had no coalition. It was much different than Kosovo, where we had overflight rights and we had allies. But am I wrong in believing that just as appropriate a response would have been action against the Taliban, not necessarily just against Osama bin Laden and his al-Qaeda followers? We knew where Mullah Omar lived, presumably. What about a missile strike on Taliban facilities, not just their training camps, but on their civil seats of government? There would have been collateral damage, yes, but I think you said you were willing to accept collateral damage, and the 13 sailors we lost in the Cole were not collateral damage, they were direct damage. Was any consideration given to reprisals against the institutions and facilities, civil government of the Taliban for the Cole?
There were a number of proposals, and I can't recall specifically, but I think Mr. Clark may be talking about those tomorrow, but there were a number of recommendations to go in and flatten a number of areas. During that time, we did not have specific information this was bin Laden. Frankly, that was my suspicion. It could have been other Islamic extremists that were operating out of Yemen. We found out in retrospect there had been a previous attack that was unsuccessful against the Sullivan. But that was my suspicion. We were trying to get bin Laden in any event. Whether it was before the Cole or after the Cole, we were still looking for ways in which we might attack bin Laden. So there were some recommendations to actually just flatten a number of areas. It was the considered judgment at the time that that would not have either gotten bin Laden or have resulted in a positive reaction by either Pakistan, that we were courting at that point to try and persuade them to join us in this effort, or any of the others in the region. So it was determined, again, that it would have not been effective and it might have been counterproductive. That was a judgment call at the time. As the Secretary of Defense, I have to make recommendations to the President. I have to do so certainly filled with passion in terms of what had happened to the Cole. I went to those funerals and services, and I met with all the families, and so it was pretty important to me that I had to also take into account what would have been the impact of launching an attack against the Taliban at that point when we didn't have the support of Pakistan, who was officially still supporting the Taliban. Would that have been counterproductive and less effective? Our judgment was that it would not have been effective, and we didn't do it.
Do you think it's appropriate to assert, as some people have, that one of the first acts of a brand new national administration, in this case the Bush administration, would have been to go to war over the Cole?
No. I think the first act of the administration is to assess all of the information it can, to make an informed judgment, to take actions, not only one action, but to see what are the consequences of that action. I don't think any administration should take a precipitous action. They should look at the facts and then make a determination. What are the consequences of this? What is the follow-up? If we take action to attack the Taliban, how much will it take? How many forces will we? All of these factors have to be taken into account, and I think you never take step one without asking yourself, what's step 5 and 6? Where are we? And so no, I don't fault the administration for not doing that immediately.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.